MVP comes, and finally towards the mature product, when you have almost no, it is not possible that you will not have any kind of bugs or any kind of problems with your final product, but at least those are kind of very minimal or very low, right? So that will be your become your viable product which will launch into the final market, right? So that is about your product roadmap. You start with a concept idea, you test problem solution, you try to give some, that is where your kind of prototyping helps. Carry out a market analysis with customers, check feasibility, whether you can build that kind of product or services, whether you have that kind of technology available or not, whether you have that kind of resources available or not, right? Try to position that product, right? Because then now once you have a prototype to show to the customers, now you have to think of where you will position your product, whether it will be a premium product or a basic minimal product or a in-between product, right? Again, there are different structure to position your product. Think about softwares, right? Today for data analytics software, there are like kind of thousands of companies who are providing these data analytics solutions. There are free solutions available like R or Python. There are open source. There are also companies like SAS or Tableau who are charging that for you, right? Now let's say Ajay, a kind of a company, a new company comes up and try to build a similar software like that. They did market analysis, they found a gap, and they try to launch their product. Now the question will be where they will launch their product, where will they position their product, whether they are going to charge their customers for something or it will be a subscription based. So that is where your positioning statement will come into picture, right? Think about any fashion product, think about any product or services. You have to think. So position means in customers mindset, what kind of imagination, what kind of impression you are going to build about your product or services, right? Because there are already, most of the time there will be already existing product or services. Now the question is where your product or services is going to lie, right? Then test selling, and that is somewhere actually your actually market fit you come to know, right? So once if you know anytime product or services launch, there is not a direct product launch, right? So there will be alpha testing, beta testing, like for those software product. For any kind of this FMCG product, right? They try to give free samples. Zoom is providing, I think, initially when the COVID started, right? They used to have that 40 minutes time gap, 40 minutes time limit, right? Beyond that, you cannot, you again, you have to re-log in, and they try to give that as a solution to the academic setup, faculties. So they remove that time gap, 40 minutes they removed, and now try to sell them. Okay? So that is where your test selling will happen. With limited number of customers, you try to launch your product and see that what is their response, right? Then you will revamp your sales strategy accordingly, right? Based upon those feedback, let's say right now when they they have given this last 2 years or 1.5 years, most of the faculties either are using Google Classroom or Google Meet or Zoom, right? There will be always constructive, positive feedback, negative feedbacks around it, right? And with that feedback in mind, right now Zoom team, engineering team, product team will be working on those features, because it is not that they have lost a revenue in last 2 years. They're looking something for the next 5 years or 10 years, whether they will have a longer collaboration with different universities to create this kind of virtual classroom or hybrid learning, right? And that is somewhere your test selling helps. Then obviously towards the final end, right? So again, there is no end product launch. You launch a product, then you will have certain feature change, but the idea is to have minimum kind of defects or minimum kind of uh, fixes around it, right? So that is where your product roadmap works, right? Starting with the concept to the launch, right? Any questions on this? So
Sir,
yeah.
uh,
Good.
before every product launch or every product roadmap, market analysis is very important, because then you know which product you have to work on. So how does a concept is before coming before the market analysis?
So this is where your go-to-market strategy comes into picture. If I have gone to the next slide. So when you are designing a concept, right? So it is not that I have started with the idea and that will everybody will going to kind of adhere to it, unless you are the CEO or board of directors, right? Sometimes it happens like that. In Apple, if you think of Steve Jobs comes with the idea and he will tell that no, we have to do this, right? Unless you are at a kind of very high, either in a vice president or a CEO level employee, right? Most of the times, what happens? Employees give a lot of ideas, salespersons give a lot of ideas, but there will be a product or marketing team, there will be innovation team to take those ideas and try to again in-house try to see that whether that is a viable concept or not. It need not be that every time you are going for a market research, like I had mentioned before, market research is little bit of costly. Sometimes what happen, uh, the same idea 2 years or 1 year back somebody might have given, and they might have done a little bit of analysis around it, right? Or sometimes it might happen that when you actually create a business case around it, right, without going to a market. Think about in this way. Let us take a example and try to understand it. We have these kind of laptops which are being sold to students to different universities, right? Somebody comes up with the idea why we cannot have a as attached printer, because most of the time students take print last minute printing and it might not be available. Why we cannot have a portable printer whenever we are selling this kind of laptops to universities or colleges, and which will be finally given to student. Maybe a portable printer or a scanner which will be attached to your kind of laptop and again connected and disconnected, and let's say that is my idea, right? One employee or one engineering guy came up with that idea, right? I can just go to a market, do a market research whether actually student will like it or not, how much price they're going to pay, and all those things I can do it later on. Once that concept or idea comes, right? So there will be in-house team, there will be innovation team, there will be product manager, and that is one of the important role of a product manager. Because as a product manager, it is not that you have to work on all the ideas, all the concepts. You have to segregate which concepts make sense, which concepts do not have a market value. So preliminary, what happens? If those ideas goes to product manager along with the finance team. Again, it is not that every month or every 2 months there will be innovation meeting. Most of the companies do have that. Well, let's say they have collected 5 or 10 ideas, right? So there will be a group of 5 to 10 people who discuss those ideas, right? And if they feel that that is a viable idea, it makes sense, right? Then they'll go further and do a market analysis, market research. Then after market analysis, market research, if they found out that okay, this makes sense, we can make revenue out of it, we can make profit out of it, then it becomes a concept. Otherwise, most of the ideas are in ideation stage. Like I said, this printer, portable printer or portable scanner, right? The in-house team of HP or Dell or whichever laptop company they have, they'll try to find out that whether it makes sense, whether they have a technical capabilities for it, right? Whether they have a resource team who can work on that, and if they are able to create that, how much money they are able to make out of it, right? Again, it is at in a very preliminary discussion, right? It is not that they have to make a long kind of big Excel files to go to market research. So those 5 or 10 people will discuss that and try to kind of sometimes it might happen that, and most of you have seen that Xerox used to be one of the big company, right? And they have lost lot of opportunities because they thought that those ideas are not good. Yahoo used to be a big company. They in between they had a chance to acquire Google, but they thought that is a bad idea, right? So it is not that they are the
Yes.
like best decision makers, but sometimes they do a lot of big mistakes like this. But again, most of the companies do have that kind of team who makes a preliminary discussion about the ideas. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So once you have, like, let's say few ideas, let's say 8 or 10 ideas, out of that you shortlist 3 or 4 ideas. Okay, it makes sense. It is a, so then you start with the market analysis. What does the market look like? You think about the actually whether student need those kind of printers, or it is now only PDF submissions. No teacher is looking for the printout anymore, right? If need is not there, where to give that product or solution, right? Market and its dynamics, whether there are existing kind of competitors around it. Is there any existing solution around it? Company capabilities, whether actually, so that is the internal research you have to do. Whether I have engineering team, whether I have a manufacturing center who can build those kind of portable printers or portable scanners, right? Competition, we discussed, collaboration and partners. Whether there are companies, right? Let's say HP or your Dell, they might collaborate with those printer manufacturers, right? Is there opportunity for that, right? So those, all those things will come in the market analysis. Then obviously the HTB process, what we have discussed earlier, segmentation, targeting. Out of segmentation, you'll find that which market you need to get into, then target, then positioning. So this is the HTB process, then marketing mix, right? So if you think about marketing plan, right? So marketing plan will start basically with the, your market analysis, then your market selection, your kind of segmentation, targeting, HTP process, 4 P's of marketing, then customer acquisition. Once you have your marketing mix ready, you have a product, again minimum, not the final product, minimum viable product. Pricing decided, again most of the times in B2B it has to be a customized pricing. Whether you will have a direct sales force, or you will sell it to your distributor, or will sell it to your website, or a mix of it. So right now a concept of omni channel comes into picture, right? Omni channel means many channels. It is not only single channel. It is not only through direct sales force. I am combining direct sales force with website sales, with your e-commerce sales, right? So that is the concept of omni channels. Then promotions. So what kind of promotions I'm going to do it? And that is where B2B will be a little bit of different. Most of the times customers will buy if you can provide them case studies, white papers around it. Or today, if you go to buy dairy milk, you are not going to look into white paper whether dairy milk is beneficial to you or not. You like the taste, you buy it. But in B2B, if you are selling something to customers, your final customers, you have to have use cases around it, right? By using that product, you'll show that okay, how that company is going to get benefited, right? So that is one of the key promotional strategy, building those use cases, your customer stories, your white papers, case studies, right? Most of the companies, if you go to any B2B company in their website, there will be lot many case studies, lot many white papers. It is not that they just want to print something. That helps them to make a sales pitch to the customer, right? And that is where they differentiate or they differ from B2C sales. If you go to ITC, HUL, PNG, LG, Whirlpool, Samsung, their website won't have that many kind of white papers or huge cases or case studies. Go to General Electric, go to Philips business unit, Philips Healthcare, General Electric Healthcare. Go to TCS, go to Infosys website. So there you'll see lot many use cases, lot many regarding artificial intelligence, machine learning, uh, new kind of healthcare solutions. They'll have a lot of use cases. And because why they're creating that, that helps them to make those sales. Then obviously your people, your employees, they need to be enabled to make those sales. And in B2B, it is a tricky thing. Think about today, tomorrow, TCS comes and they take some of you as a pre-sales manager, right? And let's say you are not interested in technology, you will make a very bad salesperson in B2B. You might be excellent communicator, you might have excellent networking skills, but if you're not interested in technology and you join a SaaS or a kind of a IT company as a pre-sales manager, you will not grow there, neither the company will grow. So that is somewhere you have to make your career choice, and that is where the job fit has to be there. In B2B, if you are joining these software companies, you need to have an understanding about technology. It is not that you have to learn coding, but at least you should know that, okay, what kind of language is being used in that platform, what actually can be done better than the competitors, right? So that kind of technology understanding you should have. So if somebody, if you just think about, if you are selling those, if you join Zoom or this kind of company, WebEx or Google Meet, and you are trying to sell this product to universities, right? So at least you should have understanding how Zoom works, right? And how it is different from WebEx, how it is different from Google Meet. What kind of technology integration can be done? Tomorrow, let's say somebody asks, let's say you are from Google, sorry, Zoom, and you are trying to sell Zoom to products from Zoom to KIT University. Somebody asks, can it be integrated into Moodle? So your answer cannot be that, let me talk to my engineering team. So at least that understanding you should have, that whether it can be integrated into a third-party application, what kind of additional features you can provide, right? So when I say technology understanding, it is not about coding. You need to have that kind of how that technology can be used in a particular situation, right? Whether your technology can be integrated with other third-party vendors, right? So that is where your people comes into picture. Processes, whether you have existing processes in place, whether you have CRM, whether you have marketing automation, whether you have a sales pipeline in place where you can track where each customer is in, right? Then physical evidence, right? Most of the times when you talk about B2B selling, your product demos has to be happen. If you go with a new feature in Zoom, you have to go to universities and you have to request those faculties or professor to take classes in that new software and see how it is different from the previous software. So that product demonstration has to happen. Right? Once those aspects are clear, and all these things has to come in your marketing plan, right? And as detailed is your marketing plan, you'll become that good sales or marketing manager. Because it is not only about the today you are going to sell a product or services, you are creating about marketing plan. When you create a marketing plan, any person is going to sell that product to any customer, they refer to your marketing plan. What kind of marketing strategy you have, right? So your marketing plan need to be detailed, need to be customer specific, right? And that is where in B2B they prepare different, for different industries they prepare different use cases, case studies, right? And that is somewhere, if you see, like none of you, I did not see any of you discussed about that strategy, how they approach, how that kind of communication happens in B2B marketing. Right? None of you go to that company's website, look into what kind of use cases they have. Obviously, not all of them will have, but 90% of the companies which you have presented will have different case studies. Then the part of customer acquisition comes, right? Where we'll discuss about the customer journey mapping, right? Awareness, interest, desire or decision. Then your evaluation will come into picture, right? Any questions on this? Remember GTM strategy, go to market. That is a standard question, not only in B2B, in B2C also they might ask how you create a go to market strategy for any product or services. So then what do you mean by product launch plan? And that is a standard question, how your go to market strategy is different from product launch plan. Because there also we are talking about a product, right? And that need to go to market means how you take that product to the market, right? As simple as that, go to market. If I have a product or service, if I have an idea or a concept, how will I take that idea or concept, build a product and take that to market, right? Go to market. Then somebody talks about a product launch plan, right? So product launch plan is basically a little bit of short term, right? When you think about 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, go to market strategy start a little bit earlier than that and extends to a lot later than that. So when I talk about product launch plan, right? So I am thinking about next 3 months, 6 months, or 9 months. What kind of communication strategy I'm going to place? What kind of TV advertisement, or let's say if it is a B2B, what kind of product demonstration, what kind of product usage videos I have to create, put into Instagram, put into Facebook, put into, let's say, LinkedIn, right? What kind of webinars I have to connect, what kind of industrial trade shows I have to go and showcase my product, right? So that is little bit of short term then go to market strategy. Once you have decided, right, it basically start with your, so go to market strategy will have 4 stages, right? Your market analysis, right? Then STP, right? Then your marketing mix, then your customer acquisition. Your product launch plan is mostly associated with your marketing mix and your customer acquisition part, right? Some part of customer acquisition, right? But when I talk about go to market start with your customer research also. Then you talk about your segmentation, targeting, positioning. Then you talk about your marketing mix. Then you go about customer acquisition. But when I talk about the product launch plan, once I've decided my product, pricing, then I'm talking about those what kind of promotions, what kind of channels I'm going to take, what kind of processes I have to build. So in a short term, next 3 to 6 months or 9 months, what kind of processes I'm going to build, what kind of product demos I have to give to customer, right? So that is little bit of short term, right? And it talks about those your marketing mix, some part of marketing mix and some part of customer acquisition, right? So if you see like in this case, there will be different stakeholders who will be associated with, starting with your sales team, marketing team, service team, right? Those service guys, let's say if it is a physical product, right? And it need to have a warranty or guarantee services. They need to be trained properly. Your warranty or product manual need to be created. For that, there is a technical publication team, right? Lot of product manufacturing companies, they have a, so most of the times if you have like if refrigerator comes, if a TV comes, laptop comes, right? So there used to be right now they have reduced that many documents. If you purchased a refrigerator or a TV 5 years or 10 years back, they used to have 3 to 4 books, right? Small booklets, right? Talking about warranty, talking about product usage, talking about different features of the product, right? So for that, you need to have a technical publication team who basically designs those animations. Right now, all these people are talking about video technical publication, right? They create those animations. If there is a malfunction in your refrigerator or TV, where to see it, how to check that, right? Rather earlier, what used to happen, there used to be book around it, right? So all those things need to be come into this product launch plan. When your technical manuals will be ready, when your product demos will be ready, who is going to give those product demonstrations, what kind of webinars, where you will give those webinars, right? So all these things will come under your product launch plan, right? Uh, any question on how to differentiate between go to market strategy and product launch plan? I'm taking a little bit of more time on this because there has been questions around it. How will you launch a product, or how will you go to create a go to market strategy? So please uh, read about it, very clear about it. Any questions around it? Then there is something called portfolio roadmap. So any company, right, whether it is a B2B or B2C, here I've given that example of BMW, right? So it is not that they're going to launch a one product or two product, right? And they're just not thinking about next year or 2 year, right? So they will have a plan for next 5 to 10 years, right? Combination of product. So today, if they have a platform, they're going to launch only petrol or diesel vehicles. So 10 years back, they used to have that kind of plan. So next 5 years, we'll launch this kind of SUVs, this kind of petrol vehicles, this kind of diesel vehicles, right? Now, for the next 5 to 10 years, the portfolio roadmap has changed. So combination of product you are going to launch in next 5 to 10 years. So product roadmap is only for a single product line. Portfolio roadmap is for a multiple product lines. Whatever product or service you have, right? Combination of that. So you should have a plan for that next 5 to 10 years. So if you see by 2025, what kind of product you should have, what kind of technology that should have, whether it will be purely electric vehicles or a hybrid vehicle, or still will continue with petrol or diesel vehicle, right? Similarly, think about Zoom. Right now, they are just giving this kind of platform where we can do these classes, meetings, or conferences, right? So when they will be thinking of next 5 to 10 years, they will have planned to integrate artificial intelligence. They will have planned to in- integrate augmented reality or virtual reality technology, right? And they will be working on that, right? And it is not only a single product. They will be thinking of what other product they might get into, right? So that is where your portfolio roadmap comes into picture, right? Portfolio roadmap is combination of all your product or services and how you are planning for that, right? So now comes to the B2B customer experience journey, right? When you are creating go-to-market strategy, right? One thing you have to always keep in mind, right? Something about the touch point, right? And I think most of you might have heard this term. Touch point is something where it is not only that whenever customer buys your product or services, it starts long before that. When they're searching for your product or services, if they come to your website, let's say today, tomorrow, let's say I am given an assignment to look for different this kind of vendors who can like manage examination online. We already have, let's say, Moodle. Let's say we are not happy with Moodle and we try to have a better vendor, right? So how will it happen? So I might reach out to my contacts who might have knowledge about it, or I might simply Google it, right? Try to find out those vendors, those kind of companies who are handling this kind of online examination, right? That point. So when I'm searching for information, right? So I have a need that okay, I have to find a company or a vendor who will help me to administer or manage the online examination in KIT, right? Starting with that point, if I search and your company's names doesn't come into Google, right? You have lost that touch point. So that connection has not happened, right? But think about in this way. Once I put those keywords in Google, you are on the first 10. In the first page, you are in number 7 or number 8. Your company is there. Right? So when you are preparing your go-to-market, you have to think of that. When a customer is going to search about these kind of product or services, I should have a good digital marketing, search engine optimization, or I might pay some money and do this pay per click, so that my ads for my product or my services is easily available to customer. At least they can see the information about my product or services, because that is the first customer touch point. Unless you are a very big brand, right? You are the market leader in that domain. Customer might not know about you. Right? So that is if you are creating a go-to-market strategy and you think that okay, that part digital marketers will take care. That is marketing managers work. I, as a product manager, I will not take care of that. No, you have to think about that. You have to make a plan around it. So for a customer, how the start, like obviously you searches internet most of the times, right? It need not be always searching for internet. You might talk to experts, you might talk to individuals who might have knowledge around it. Then initial consideration, right? You might, whatever number is provided in your website, or let's say just dial, I might call that number, or I might write an email to you, sales at the rate Zoom or webex.com. I write an email to you showing my interest, right? So okay, I want to understand about your product or services as a customer, right? So that is the initial consideration page, right? Then the interaction happens. Sales officers, sales executive, sales managers from that company will try to reach out to the customer, right? Interaction, subsequent interactions. It is not that in the first meeting itself you will give a demo. You will have to make an appointment. You have to visit that campus. You will show that what kind of product or services you have. Then, depending upon their need, you will provide that quote, right? The quotation around it, right? Then it is not that you are the only person, unless you are creating a technology nobody has created, right? There will be competitors. So now the person, the customer is going to evaluate, right? They study the proposal. Any question they have, they'll try to ask the company associated with it. Then moment of purchase based upon the criteria, and we have discussed that vendor selection criteria, right? And that is, I think that was the first exercise you did. You want to create a canteen services your campus. There will be anything any company purchases, there will be criteria around it, right? Based on criteria, whichever company is found to be suitable, right? That is the like final presentation, and that contract has been finalized. Then the delivery or installation. So in this case, you might, let's say it is something very, let's say implementation of ERP systems, SAP. Your employees need to be trained. But if somebody is using Zoom, it is not that they'll come and provide training, right? Because all the materials is available on website, and employees can just install Zoom and start using it. But think about ERP system, think about SAP system. You need employees to go there and at least train those customers, right? So that is your training, testing, installation, delivery of the product or services comes into picture. Then the invoices, the final billing will happen. Then the customers start using the product. Now the problems start happening, right? There is a failure in, sometimes Zoom is not opening, or sometimes that ERP system is failing. Or let's say we have bought a lot of air conditioners, huge heating and ventilation air conditioning system for our college. There is malfunctions, right? And I was discussing that someday, right? Most of the times, if it is a central air conditioning, if there is a failure, all your classrooms will get affected, right? How to like avoid those kind of situations? So, and if you see the like kind of smiley faces or the angry faces, right? Those are there for a reason, right? It is not that it is just put like that. Green ones like that, where customer is not putting that much effort. Yellow ones, they are not sure, they are not happy, sometimes they are neutral about it. The red ones are the one where, see, that is a problem, right? Searches internet, if they have existing product or service, searching internet, finding numbers, calling them, it is not a kind of a something somebody wants to do, right? That is a pain point for them. Once they have started using it, if the problem happens, that is a red point, red mark, red flag around it, because they did not assume or anticipate that will be a product difficulty, malfunction, right? So these are the red ones, right? So now the question happens, and green ones, so where the you are actually there happy, right? Again, it will change depending upon different product or services, how your company is interacting with the customer. Now the challenge is, as a product manager or a marketing manager, can you anticipate all these touch points and have a plan already ready for it? You need not wait for a customer to have a product failure. They'll raise a ticket. They'll call you your call center. Why your maintenance people has not come and rectified the air conditioning? There is a problem in the classrooms. Student or teacher are not able to like kind of attend classes. So why you will like kind of let this happen till that point of time? Can you have something in place? And today we'll discuss about it, so that you can remotely monitor the product or services. In case of there is problem happens, there will be a proactive maintenance. You will go there and check the product or services beforehand. Think about a normal thing at your home. You most of you, or at least half of you, will have this water filters or water purifiers at home. Always there is a difficulty when the filter need to be changed. You will put a date on it. After 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, when the like I think the water quality, you feel that it is little deteriorating, then you'll ask somebody to, or you'll ask that whichever company water purifier you have, right? You'll call them and they'll come to your house, right? If it is a holiday, they might not come. So there are a lot of challenges around it. Can you build a solution? Can you build a sensor around your water purifier? Once your filter is kind of expended or runs out of life, automatically trigger will happen to the company. It is not customer's duty, right? Company should be proactive enough to come 6 months, 5 months, or 3 months down the line, whenever the requirement is there, come and rectify the problem, right? Then only you will build that loyalty or trust. Otherwise, next time, if a customer is not happy with Uber, obviously they will have lot many other options where they can get into, right? So that is where this customer experience journey is very much important. So customer journey mapping is something where you try to reach out to customer at each touch point, plan for it, and whenever there is a problem, and again, it is not that there has to be a problem. Before that, you are reaching out to customer, and that will build the moment of truth, and that will have a happy experience for that customer, which will build the loyalty, right? So what happens next time there is a requirement, they are not going to search for other companies. So if you see this curve, usage, if while the using the product or services, and it is not a kind of a rocket science, right? Everybody knows, if you are happy with the product or service, next time obviously you are going to buy again, repeat purchase, right? You are not going to look for other companies, and this is where your B2B customer experience journey happens, right? Any questions on this? So now looking into a new product, right? So if you just look into the right side of there is a statement written there. It is estimated that 70 to 95% of all new products introduced into the market fail. And it is not necessarily always a product related problem. It is not that your product or services were bad. Most of the times, if you do not have a very good go to market strategy, it might have a problem with your market research. You did not do your homework properly. It might be problem with your product. You did not design the product or services properly. You might be problem with your promotions, pricing, the channel partners you chose. So, and again, you might not have processes around it. You do not have a good customer relationship management software in place. Customer is having problem, customer have a issue, you do not have a tracking mechanism. After 3 months or 6 months only you came to know about a customer is facing issue. They are trying to reach out your number was not working. Email you did not answer, right? Okay. So most of the times product or service failure doesn't happen only for your problem with your product or services. It is lot many things associated with it. It might be a problem with your targeting. You might not target the proper segment, or you might not treat a good segmentation also. You are going to a customer and they are not happy, they do not have a need for your product or services, or you did not select a proper segment, or you did not position your product. You are selling a premium product and you are telling that it is a like kind of a very like kind of value for money product. But there is an interesting thing. If your product is succeeded, if your product or services, new product or services is successful, see the top companies, top 25% of companies are earning 36% of their revenues. Around 211 companies were surveyed, right, back in 2011. So top 36% of the companies, sorry, top 25% of the companies are earning 36%, more than one third of their revenue from the new product or services. So that brings to kind of that gives you importance. How important is to continuously innovate, continuously launch new product or services into market. And if you see the profit also, the profit percentage is around 30% of profit is coming from your new product or services, which is a huge deal. Each year, the product or services the companies are launching, 30% of profit is coming from that. 36% of the revenues are coming from that. And once we have said that already 70 to 95% on an average, if I take the minimum also, almost 2/3 of your product or services are failing. Right? And here you see the confusion. I'm trying to launch my product or services. Most of them are failing, but those who are succeeding, they are giving me a lot of revenue, lot of profit. So now my attempt should be my product or services failure should be low, right? And for that to happen, I should have a very good go-to-market strategy, and I should be able to understand the customer journey properly. If I do not, if I am not able to connect with customers properly, product or services are going to fail. And most of the times, problem what happens, salesperson, marketing persons, everybody will start blaming the engineering team, saying that your product doesn't work. Based upon my experience, based upon what I have seen, most of the times it is not about the there is a product or service problem has happened. Obviously, there will be certain problems with product or services, but most of the times what happens, it is with the how you have launched your product, how you have communicated to your customers. And that is something while discussing in another class, I was talking about service operations. How you communicate, if I am communicating to customer that, okay, this air conditioning system will purify all your air with 99.99%. But I do not have that technology right now in my hand. That technology will come after 1 year or 6 months. But I've still made that communication to customer. Obviously, whatever air quality air, if somebody measures in the room, it will not be that pure. And that is where the problem comes. That is the communication, what you have communicated, and as a company, you are not able to meet that communication target. So the point what I'm trying to make is, it is not always about the mistakes or the design failure in product or services. Most of the times, it might be for different reasons for which product or services fail. So that is where your new product performance success depend a lot on how you develop your product. So new product strategy, this is where your go-to-market strategy comes into picture, right? So product development process is about the innovation, design, engineering team work. New product strategy is about your go-to-market strategy. And whether you have a resource commitment, that is where your customer journey mapping comes into picture. Whether you have required resources to communicate with customers, to understand the need of customers. And if any case a customer is facing any issue, let's say you do not have personnel to train customers, and customer is requesting for a product demo, but you did not assume that okay, there will be resources around it. So you do not have resources who will go and train customers, and you say that okay, go and watch YouTube videos, right? And nobody will be interested to buy your product or services. And if you are able to meet those, obviously one part is engineering side, design side, but from the marketing or the sales strategy, if you are talking about, if I'm able to build a good go-to-market strategy, and I have a resource commitment for the customer journey mapping, right? Then I will have these kind of results in the right side, right? I will have a greater profitability in comparison to competition. I will have a good profit. So if you see 30% of the profit is coming from new product, and success rate, right, which is very poor actually across industry. 70 to 95% product fail. Right? So where does this ideas come? I'll not put just you can remember these things. Obviously, it might be internally from salespeople, employees. Most of the companies will have research and innovation team, design team. Sometimes companies do this market research for serendipity. Anyone knows what does serendipity means? What do you mean by serendipity? Serendipity means by chance, right? It was luck. So I was talking, I think one group was presenting 3M, right? So the sticky, those notes, that was a serendipity, right? Nobody like thought of that product, created that product. So they were trying to create a glue which will be like a very, like a better glue than the what they had. And in that process, they created this product, sticky note, right? Or it might, the product innovation ideas might come from externally, like from channel members, competitive moves, competitor is into that domain, right? You have to go into that, otherwise they will take the market share. Industrial customers, sometimes the customers themselves, they give your idea. right? Or it might be the end consumers, right? So what is the difference between industrial customers or end consumers? Think about MRF, C8, right? For them, the industrial customers will be Maruti, Hero Honda, or those automobile companies. End consumers will be people like you and me. Sometimes the ideas might come from us, right? For a particular road, for a particular area, we where we are staying, we might give those ideas to those tire companies. Okay, you might have to build this kind of tire, or it might come from those automobile companies also, right? So innovation ideas might come from different, and as a company, you have to look into different sources of idea. You cannot just rely on your salespeople or the innovation team. Sometimes you have to look into your customers also, right? And that is somewhere something called lead user method comes into picture, right? So what happens lead user is most of the B2B companies, whenever they design or kind of thinking about a product idea, right? They try to involve some of the users, right? Customers, right? So think about, uh, let's say this MRF or C8, right? So if they're trying to create a new tire or a new kind of design of tires, new platform of tires with certain sensors kind of relate associated or inbuilt into it, so that whenever there is a problem with tire, automatically the user will come to know, right? So it is so intelligently build those tires, right? There is a chip or a sensor associated with it will able to tell you how many years or how many months that tire is going to run, right? Or you are going beyond the RPM the tire is designed for, right? Let's say that is something the idea is uh, they are working on, right? So what happens? So they'll try to identify target. Obviously, that kind of tire will be costly, right? So not all people will be trying to buy that, right? So you'll be trying to find out your target market. Then obviously market research, that market analysis will happen. Whether there are competitors already who are into that domain, whether you have internal stakeholders who are going to pay you for that, right? Because innovation again is costly, right? Then you talk to experts in the field, right? What kind of technology is already into market? Can I partner with someone? Again, it is a part of the market analysis. It is need not be that you have to develop that technology, because MRF as a company might not build those sensors. There will be companies in USA, Europe, or any other country who have built those kind of sensors. Can I tie up with them rather than building a sensor from ground, right? Now the comes into picture of identifying lead user, right? So now because I have the prototype, now I have collaborated with somebody from Thailand or China or let's say Singapore, and I have bought those sensors and I'll integrate with my tires. Now I need to identify lead user, will test my product, will give me my feedback, right? And that is something called lead user method in innovation, right? So now you identify those lead users, right? So who are basically are using your product or services. You cannot go to a market and find new customers and they will be your lead users, right? Most of the times, they might not be using this kind of tires, but they might be using. So those customers who have with you for last 10 or 15 years, right? So you have built a relationship with them. Most of the time, they will be preferred to be your lead user. So actually, so in my previous company, we you build this power tool, right? So this basically used power tools are something in the assembly plant when you are building these cars, automobiles, or any kind of product, right? You need this kind of power tools to screw different nuts and bolts, right? If, think about a employee, think about a person who is working in Maruti's assembly plant. It is not possible physically to hold that product 8 to 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours holding that product, right? Obviously not all the time he has to hold and screw knots and bolt, but most of the time that is his or her work, right? So it matters a lot, right? What is the weight of that product? So we try to reduce that weight of the product. We did a lot of market research, found out that what is the competitor product, did a lot of value engineering, tried to import some of the batteries, which is basically some of the this product are integrated batteries inside the power tool, right? Some of them are kind of huge compressed air. Some of them are battery operated. So now we are looking up those battery operated power tools, right? So the image which I have shown, right? And we try to build a product which will be lightweight, right? But now what happens if the product becomes very lightweight? So there is a torque, right? So what happens when you are screwing some nuts and bolts? The final, like when it gets set, there is a back, it will give a pushback, right? So if it is a very lightweight, what will happen? It will be, so if it is like, think about a gun, right? Whenever you fire a gun, right? If it is a very light gun, right? The gun will flee away, right? Same thing with the power tool also, right? If you're screwing nut and bolt, if it is very light, so now the problem happens. What is the perfect balance for it? What should be the weight of the power tool so that you are able to kind of whatever assembling things you are doing, you will be able to do it properly without much load on your hand, right? And that is where we like kind of we'd have a tie-up with our whichever users in different companies, right? And we gave those products for 3 to 6 months. They use those new product in their assembly line. So we have our own employees standing in those assembly line, noting down feedback from the field service people, those people who are actually in the assembly line, right? Because they are going to use it. If they are not happy, we'll be losing a lot of markets there, right? And that is where your lead user comes into picture, right? So you tie up with your users, existing user, right? Who uses your product and try to give you feedback about it, right? Based upon their feedback, right? What are the problem happening if it is becoming very lightweight, right? So see, it is not a you have built a final product and you are giving a testing. Now what happens? We are building that product alongside with the customer. So based upon that feedback, we might have to change certain things. We might have to change the kind of design of the product. Again, we'll go back to the plant. We'll design a prototype. Again, we'll go back to the plant. So it is a long-term process. And based upon those iterative process, feedback from the customers, we change those product design. Again, go back to customer, right? The final product developing the breakthroughs, the final product. And this product we actually launched when I was in that previous company. We were able to launch this product into Indian market, right? So this is where how the lead user method comes into picture. The important aspect is if I want to take 2 lines of this out of this whole presentation, right? So you identify the users, existing users, right? With whom you have a very good networking loyalty, right? And they help you in product innovation. They are not only testing your product, they collaborate with you. Think about MRF building that tire, collaborating with Maruti, right? So the tire itself will provide a signal how much tire life is left, right? So that is where your collaboration with the lead user happens, right? And any questions with? So now the kind of thing of that in that customer journey map when you go and try to sell your product, right? And that is lot to do with when we discussed about after 2 or 3 slides about the solution selling, right? So earlier what used to happen, I have a product or services, what will ask, what do you want? Based upon the your requirement, I'll try to customize my product or services. Think about again, I will come back to that example of Zoom, right? So if earlier 2 years back the line when this COVID did not happen, if somebody you have joined Zoom and you come to Kit Campus to sell Zoom as a this video platform, so you will try to understand what is the requirement. Accordingly, you will try to sell the features of Zoom, right? Okay, you have this requirement, we can customize our Zoom to record the attendance. We can customize our Zoom to like kind of let's say provide you unlimited users. You will have a user ID and password so that nobody else can use your Zoom license, right? So all this, whatever user requirement we try to meet or user need, we need to try to kind of map with our product features, right? And that is a work of the your as a business development guy. So whatever you have to understand the need or requirement of a customer, and accordingly you have to find out what kind of product feature you have, what kind of service feature you have, which meets those needs or requirement, right? And then you will like kind of able to develop that account, right? So that is something a traditional way of working, right? Now we have moved beyond that. We are not looking into what do you want. What we are asking, what do you want to go? We are not asking what kind of features you want a video platform. What we are asking right now is why do you need a video platform? And how you are so obviously the need of a video platform is to have this online classroom. So what is your vision for the online classroom? Where do you as a university see yourself next 5 years down the line? How you are going to interact with students, how you are going to interact with industry experts, right? What is your actual need? Your actual need is not that you are going to buy a video, this kind of platform, right? Or a software. Your actual need is to kind of a conduct a online classroom or a conduct a hybrid classroom without much effort, without much problem. That is your end objective of a customer. And how as a company I'm going to meet it, right? And that is the difference between product or service selling to a solution selling. I'm not going to ask you what is your requirement. What I'm going to ask you, what is the problem you are facing and how I'm going to solve that. So that is the solution I'm going to provide. So if you remember, that is what I was talking about earlier, I think in the first initial classes. So the problem is not that a company is looking for a video, this kind of website platform or a video call platform. The problem is that they are having challenge as a university because due to COVID, they are having challenge to conduct physical class. So they have digital classrooms, but how will they able to ensure that digital classrooms are same as physical classrooms? So can I provide them that solution? Then I'll go about and try to build that product or services, right? Recognizing the customer's ability to innovate, many companies have developed toolkits and have invited customers to design their own customized product, right? So that is where the collaboration happens, right? So I'll show you an example of General Electric, right? So they generally invite doctors or those kind of hospital like kind of management. They come and try to design their own product. I'll provide you the engineering support. You come and take help from my innovation team and try to design a product which will be helpful for you, right? Rather than I am going to sell you a product or service. Now what happens, you know, you are the best, like kind of you are the best person to know your own problems. So you come to my company, right? So when I say you come to my company, basically you come to my lab, my manufacturing plant engineering lab. I will provide you all the resources. I'll provide you all the engineering capacity. You try to build the product or services, right? So that is where your solution selling mindset comes into picture. Some innovation in B2B. Coca-Cola did this. So one of the challenges this uh, in USA, Europe, they face these small time retailers, right? So whenever Coca-Cola provides them this kind of big uh, kind of boxes like freezers to store that product, right? So the challenge they used to face that, okay, where will keep my this big freezer, right? So through this AR technology, right, we were able to put and try to see that whether it will fit your like space available in the store, right, where you can keep those Coca-Cola freezers, right? So they kind of I'm not sure which company they tied up with. So it is not that they developed that software or they developed that solution. So Coca-Cola tied up with a company through which a small time retailer can know where they'll be able to keep these Coca-Cola freezers. So this is something which I was talking about, GE Additive Customer Experience Centers. GE basically calls those customers. They come to General Electric campus. So they have all the engineering facilities. Customers will go and visit those GE centers and explain those problems to those GE engineers or executives and try to collaboratively build those product or solutions, right? This example also we have discussed earlier. One of the big challenge these companies face, uh, obviously last 2 years, I think the sales has reduced. But before that, right, printer usage, right? Now, any government offices or wherever, lot of printout, lot of paper usage happens, right? Lot of pages need to be printed. One of the big challenges happens is either you store a lot of printer cartridges in your inventory, or you can use this kind of solutions, right? Whenever there is a shortage of printer cartridges, automatically HP salesperson or service center will come to know, and they will proactively will send you those printer cartridges. You need not have to store those cartridges at your place, right? So HP came up with that solution. They put a sensor in the printer. So like I was talking about that MRF coming up with a tire, right? Same situation here. So that is where you move from product to a solution perspective. You are not just going to sell a product or services to a company. You are looking into what kind of problem you are going to solve. And it need not be necessary that you have all the answers. You might have to tie up with different vendors, different partners, right? And as a key account manager, that will be your role. So think about Zoom. Zoom is not going to develop a exam platform tomorrow, but they might tie up with Moodle and provide that solution, right? So you have a video platform which can be integrated with Moodle. So what happens right now whenever we are conducting exams? So there is a Zoom, there is a Moodle, and they are working separately. Now, if a good business development manager from Zoom or your Moodle comes, they can have a collaboration between them and they can provide a single solution to a customer, like all these universities, right? So value proposition will be creating and delivering superior customer solutions. You are not selling a product or services, right? Value is co-created because you are not creating a product or services and telling how good your product or services is. You are creating a product or services depending upon the along with customer, right? And that is the difference between product testing and product co-creating with a customer. So basically you start with a customer problem, assemble required product and services to solve the project. So this is basically transaction based. You sell a product or services, you get a money. Again, you have a 2-year or 3-year warranty. Here it is a long-term association because depending upon the challenges customer face, your next year innovation will comes into picture, right? Quality is a internal process company operates quality of customer farm interaction because now you're developing along with the customer, right? So it is not that quality is your in your only manufacturing plant. Quality ideas will come from the customers also, right? So how to measure quality and how to improve quality, those ideas will come from customers also, right? So basically, again, talking about it simply in single line, I want to differentiate between solution perspective, keeping customer problem in the front page, right? So that is my first element, and how to keep solve that problem, right? And that is the first statement I want to go ahead with when I'm talking about solution selling, right? If somebody asks you, what do you mean by solution selling or a difference between product selling to a solution selling, right? So you start with a whatever your customer's problem, I keep that into front and try to create a solution around it rather than creating a product or services which will meet customer requirement, right? So that is the main difference between uh, selling a product or service or selling a solution, right? So I'll just have two slides. I'll just take 2 minutes. So now the part of services comes into picture, right? So most of the times now what happens? So when you talk about solutions, right? Now the idea comes rather than selling a product, I'm looking into a solution, right? Combination of product or services. Earlier, what used to happen? I'll sell you a product, I'll sell you a laptop, then warranty is a service, right? So product is laptop, service is warranty services or maintenance services. But when I'm talking about solution, it is no longer about product or services, right? I'm combining them and providing you a solution. You need not have a separate purchase order for a product, separate purchase order for a services. What I'm going to provide you now, I'm providing you a solution. What is your problem? Your problem is, let's say, this Zoom license or your air conditioning system, right? So your problem, you are not looking for a air conditioner. You are not looking for a maintenance contract for that. Your problem is because Odisha is a like kind of coastal state, temperature, humidity is much more high than other states. So you need to have a proper conditioning system at classrooms where teachers and students can interact and complete that assignment, right? Basically the classroom activities. So that is the problem, maintaining the classroom ambience. I'm not going to sell you a product or service. I'm going to sell you a solution. So for each class hour, you are going to pay me because I'm going to make keep those classrooms air conditioned. Right? So that is where you see the mindset change. I'm not going to sell you a product. I'm not going to sell you a air conditioner. I'm not going to sell you a maintenance services. Your problem is to maintain the air conditioners, basically room ambience, temperature control, uh, at least if not a 90 100% air pure quality, but at least to the extent possible, right? Air quality is pure, right? So those are your requirement, right? So those are the problems you are facing. So now what I'll say, okay, each day you have this many classrooms. I am going to install the product, you need not have to pay anything. I am going to maintain those products, you need not have to pay me anything. But what you are going to do, for each hour of classroom, right, you are going to pay me 2000 or 1000 rupees, right? So monthly, if this is happening, so you need not have to worry about how many tonnages you have to buy. This air conditioner is not working, when the change will happen. Everything I'll take care. I'm not going to ask you any upfront money. But each month, by the end of the month, I'll bill you for this many classroom hours, because that many classroom I maintain proper air conditioning system, and you pay me for the air conditioning system, right? And so that is where solution selling comes into picture. Rather than selling a air conditioning product or maintenance services, I am selling you the air conditioned air, right? Because air conditioned ambience, right? That is the solution I'm providing, right? So that is where product or services are getting integrated. So how you integrate services? There can be product life services, life cycle services, right? So banks, if I'm selling those ATM machines, right? Inspection of ATM machines, rather than your bank having a regular like pro looking for ATM is not working, they will look for a ATM repair, right? If I have the proactive like kind of sensors which will tell me that okay, ATM either money is not there or there is a malfunction, some components are not working, and I'll go and proactively work for that, proactively repair for that. So that is where your product lifecycle services, those are known as product lifecycle services. Next is asset efficiency services. This is the where if you know Rolls-Royce and the other company, they basically manufacture jet engines, but they don't sell that to Boeing or Airbus. The engines, so imagine this scenario. They, again, I'm repeating, they do not sell the jet engines to Airbus or Boeing. What they sell is your how much uptime you are, how much time you're operating, right? So you need not have to pay me for the jet engine. Rolls-Royce will not charge for the jet engine, but for the number of hours they are using their engines, Boeing or Airbus going to pay for the Rolls Royce, right? So that is where. So rather than selling a product which is a jet engine, what I'm charging now, Rolls Royce is charging for the number of hours that air lines or the aircrafts are working, because obviously it is flying means jet engines are working properly, right? And they will monitor it, remote monitoring of jet engine, right? So that is the asset efficiency. I'm looking at how efficiently, because right now earlier what used to happen, if I sell a jet engine, it has a lifetime of 5 years or 7 years. If it is properly maintained, it might go up to 10 years or 15 years. Now the headache is not with the Boeing or Airbus. Rolls Royce is going to manage those assets for you and make sure that that assets are being efficiently managed, right? So that is where asset efficiency services, right? So Rolls Royce are not selling jet engines; they are managing those jet engines for the airline. Process support services, so logistics consulting for material, so FedEx, DHL, right? So now what happens? Earlier, what happens? Amazon or Flipkart, they FedEx and DHL were the only the outbound logistics partner. Right now, what happens inside the warehouse? Whatever processes, because FedEx and DHL have 20, 25 or 30 years of experience around managing warehouses. So that process efficiency, right? Can I build a warehouse which will optimize my product delivery? So that kind of consulting, that kind of help as a company you can provide. So that is again process support services. Last one is process delegation services, right? Think about Maruti. When the final painting of the car happens, rather than you Maruti having their own employee, own paint shop, if that can be managed by Asian Paint, actually for Ford, DuPont does. If you think about Maruti, a competitor as Ford, Asian Paint's competitor as DuPont, DuPont actually in some of the plants of Ford manages the painting process of cars, the final painting process. When the car is built, finally it is in the painting shop. That process is managed by the vendor, the supplier, DuPont. Think about if I'm talking about the Indian context, in Maruti's assembly plant, if I can think of Asian Paint will have their own employees, own service personals, own paint, who own paint shop where the cars can be painted, right? So this is how you integrate your services along with your B2B product to provide the hybrid offerings, which is nothing but a solution selling. So that ends your session for today. Any last question?
So can you please again explain the example of product lifecycle services? That ATM example.
Yeah, product lifecycle services is like for a ATM or for a power transformer. Here it is given, right? So anytime a ATM machine, SBI or HDFC or ICI, they will be buying. There will be a third-party vendor who is manufacturing those products, right? So it will be useful for a 5 years or 10 years or 15 years of timeline, right? Now what happens? There is a product contract where SBI or HDFC will be buying 1,000 or 10,000 ATM machines, and there will be a service contract, right? So now what happens? Most of the times, what happens? There is a headache like this ATM machines is not working. That bank will inform the those whoever is providing that ATM machine. Yes, Prachita.
Actually, I have a class now.
Yeah,
Can
yeah,
I
yeah,
leave?
yeah. Please go ahead. So those of you who have classes can go ahead. The class is over as of now.
So
So
actually, I couldn't like give attendance in the start, sir. I couldn't join earlier
okay,
because
okay.
of my
So
network.
send me a mail. Send me a mail.
Yes, sure, sure.
So this is where that inspection part, regular inspection of ATM machines, right? Or regular inspection of a transformer before the failure happens. Just think about the proactive maintenance, right? That basically is known as your product lifecycle services because it helps to improve your life cycle of a product rather than looking for ATM failures or a power transformer failures where customer complaint will happen. If you have a proactive service provider who will come to those ATM machines every month, it is not about those persons who put those notes or coins in the ATM machines. It is about those third-party vendors who come and check for any issues with the ATM machines. Right? So that is the product lifecycle services, right? Rather than having a separate contract for a product and a service maintenance, if I can integrate them, which will maintain throughout my life cycle of the product ATM machines. So I'm not charging for 10,000 ATM machines. I'm charging for maintaining those 10,000 ATM machines for next 10 years because that is the like average life 8 to 10 years of ATM machine. Then again, it need to be replaced. That is the life cycle services.
So how it is different from asset efficiency services?
Efficiency is you are looking for a improvement of your. It is see jet engine. What is your biggest criteria, right? If any failure happens, it is a kind of a long loss for a Boeing or Airbus, right? So now what happens? Rolls-Royce is taking the responsibility rather than these 10 years. I'll try to do the same jet, and again, it is costly product, right? 30 to 40% of a cost of a aircraft is of that jet engine. Two jet engines will almost 40 to 45% of the cost of the aircraft. Rolls-Royce is kind of guaranteeing that. So rather than buying this jet engine for 10 years or 8 years, I will ensure that same jet engine can be efficiently managed for next 15 years. You need not worry about that. So in that service agreement, which you will have, earlier you used to buy a jet engine, which will generally go for 10 or 12 years. Now the efficiency management, improving the efficiency, that responsibility with Rolls-Royce, which is not in the product life cycle. So here the third-party vendor is not telling this ATM machine will run for 10 years, I'm going to improve it for 12 years or 15 years. That is still 8 to 10 years, but you will not have any customer complaint. I'll make sure that product failures or anytime for the next 10 years or 8 years or 5 years, I'll proactively maintain those ATM machines so that there is no customer complaint. Because most of the times what happens, if ATM machine is not working, some customer will call that SBI or HDFC or ICICI, then it will take 1 or 2 days to somebody to come and repair those ATM machines. That won't happen. I'll give you 95% guarantee or 99% guarantee. But I'm not going to guarantee that it will go for next 15 years or 20 years. That guarantee I'm not giving. But in the asset efficiency services, Rolls-Royce will give a guarantee that, okay, generally you will use these engines for 10 years. Let me manage those engines and I'll make sure that it will go for 12 years or 15 years. So that is the increase in efficiency that is guaranteed by the service provider. And that is the difference. Product lifecycle is basically proactive maintenance. Here it is basically efficiency improvement.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay.